in the Galilee.
You know, we're going to go through the news today, what's going on up in Lebanon, which isn't good. The soldiers are not happy. They're being restrained regarding orders of engagement. Not super seriously, but enough to make them unhappy. And we had 3 jets bombing Gaza yesterday. Surprise, surprise. That's not typical. And Lebanon and Israel are meeting in America yesterday, but in Washington D.C. But I don't understand this whole thing. Why doesn't somebody on the news media say, what is the point of Israel and Lebanon meeting when the war is from Hezbollah, not Lebanon, and Lebanon has no control over Hezbollah? It's that simple. I mean, I guess it's okay the meeting. Um, 30 to 35% of Lebanon, so let's say a third, is what they call Christian, heavily Catholic, but Christian, they're going to say. And they, of course, have no interest in Iran or Mohammedanism. They're not interested in that one bit. They're um, they're opposed. They're saying their biggest problem is Iran, and of course Hezbollah is Iran, and so you've got about 5 or 6 million people in Lebanon, and a third of them are uh, what they refer to as Christians in the media, and the rest would be, you know, various kinds of Muslim, Druze, and some other things. It's heavily Muslim over there, and I think 60% of the military in Lebanon is Muslim, Shiite Muslim, which matches the type of Muslim that Iran is and Hezbollah is. So this idea that Trump came up with of using Syria to wipe out Hezbollah uh, would just infuriate the Iranians. They would know what's going on, number one. Number two, they would start sending missiles and drones into Syria, often, I think, from Iraq. If Iraq let them, it's hard to say. Maybe yes, maybe no. Uh, until Syria stopped, which would probably take 2 or 3 days at most, and then Syria would just back it up because they would be destroying the infrastructure, the government buildings. Uh, they have no restraints. They would just be attacking the oil, anything they wanted to attack in Syria, they would attack. Okay, and Trump is saying 19 million barrels of oil left the Persian Gulf in one day, although Iran is saying the Persian Gulf is closed. So I went to get confirmation or verification of this, and the only thing I could come up with was the confirmation and verification is strictly and completely based on President of the United States said it, which to me means there's a 50% chance it's a lie because he lies like crazy. So I don't know if that's true or not. I really don't know. But I do want to tell you this. Ships, the super tankers carry up to from 1 million to 3 million barrels. So if we cut it in the middle at 2 million, it was like, 8 or 9 ships left. That's pretty high. Um, I don't think in one day that happened. I think he's making it up. And it did keep oil prices low, like 72-ish in the WTI, the American, so to speak, and 76-ish on the Brent, the European, so to speak, and that's rather low. You got to remember, 60 to 65 is pretty much the norm, so it's up not much at all. Um, and Trump is saying that's his goal, to eliminate a world uh, depression or recession. Let me explain something to you. What would the countries do if the oil went to, let's say, 250 a barrel? So America would be at about, $9 at the pump, let's say, right? A gallon. All right. What would these countries like America do? They would put a subsidy, so they would eat up probably $3-4 off the price of gas. They would subsidize it, and they would kill the taxes that were being collected on the gas. So you'd probably go from 9 to 4.50 or something like that, $5, something like that, right? Manageable. That's all they would do, because they just print money. Would the European Union respond similar? Yes. Would most of the countries in the world do this? Yes. There's some countries, very few, that couldn't do it because they use somebody else's currency, but that's very, very slight. I think it's Panama and Costa Rica, I think, use the US dollar. I think it's just them. Or maybe El Salvador uses the US dollar. I think it's El Salvador that uses US dollar, and Panama. I don't know, one of the two, El Salvador, Costa Rica, whatever. There's probably this goes on with other currencies around the world too, but minimal. Now they could subsidize the gas, and that would stop the rise in price of food and other goods, stuff like this. Okay. So Trump wants you to think he's such a hero, and he's going to stop the prices of fuel from rising. But look what he does with the tariffs. He wrecks your economy. You see, you can't listen to him when he sits there and says he's trying to save the world economy. I take out my violin and go, come on. Why are you doing the tariffs then, jerk? The tariffs are ruining the economy. Why didn't he ever pay the stimulus package to the people from the tariffs? Because he doesn't care about you. Eat sawdust. I don't care. They're all this way. People don't get it. They think Trump is different. He talks different, but Trump ain't different. All right, let me go into the live stream here and make sure we got a live stream going good. Looks good. How's my sound? Sound good? Sound good? Sound good? Sound good? Sound is good. Alright, let me get a post up here real quick. Thank you, moderator. And let me get this in here. Alright. My post is just going to take a few seconds. check it for typo. I don't know. Today the text is good. Some days it's shrinks. I don't know what goes on over there. Okay, it looks like we got everything done there. And let me close this out. Being a Bible believing site, we'll do some praise. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay. So we're also going to cover Ezekiel 45 today, which is a rather eye-opening chapter covering the anointed prince and other things about the next temple. And we're going to do that from the Codex Vaticanus, which goes back into the 300s. It's a very, very, very early collection of snippets and fragments from the Greek Septuagint, which was done in 250 BC. So it's really very, very old, and we're going to use that. And next to it, we're going to have the Leningrad Codex, which Codex means book. The Leningrad is the oldest Hebrew manuscript. I'm hearing it's 1000 AD, but I think it's from 900 AD. But it's not that significant. But that's the deal. So we'll look at both of them, and we'll see. Okay. So the Lebanese people are saying that their problem is not Israel. Well, the Christian political figures in Lebanon, of course, not the Shiite Muslims. They're saying their problem is not Israel. The problem is Iran and letting Hezbollah, railroad the country. Now, I think where they're headed here is to get Trump to help them. Will Trump help them? No, because it'll light Iran up. If Trump plays wipeout with Iran, and Hezbollah will easily cave in. Trump will probably just encourage Israel to go out and get them. But you see, you got a problem. 60% of the Lebanese army is Shiite Muslim, and they may not raise a gun to their brother Shiite Muslims. So you got a real problem there. But you got about 1.5 to 2 million Christians in Lebanon. So that's a significant obstacle for the Muslims up there, really. I mean, they got a problem. That's not, 50,000, it's significant. So far, Trump released or let Iran access 18 billion, 1-8, not 12 billion, 18 billion of frozen funds from sanctions. 18 billion. Now, how much of that is going to go to help the Iranian people and stuff like that? Realistically, maybe 8 billion, and 10 billion will go towards weapons and supporting their other, they've got to rebuild a certain amount of the buildings and other damage. They got to do that. But the bulk of it is going to go, I don't know how much exactly. It could be 12 and 6. It could be 9 and 9. I don't know. the bulk of it is likely going to go towards war. You know, war equipment and stuff like that, and supporting their proxies. The Lebanese Christian member of parliament, Sami, is it, yeah, but it's spelled funny, Samy. Uh, oh, how do you pronounce this word? I don't know. Gemiel. It doesn't matter what happens in the U.S. Iran talks, Lebanon no longer agrees to be hostage to Hezbollah. And there's also, we're hearing from other places, Lebanon cannot be free while Tehran military decides when the next war begins. That's true. So they're pretty sick and tired of the whole thing. But that doesn't mean anything's going to happen. I don't seriously believe the Lebanon army will engage Hezbollah. I've told you that, and it's proved true. They won't engage them. I mean, really fight against them, not go and find a missile depot where there's 20 missiles and they're not around, and they go destroy it to make themselves out to be good or something like that. No. I mean, really engage them. I don't think they will. They are saying in Lebanon, the government, it is an Iranian weapon parked inside a sovereign state, which is Lebanon. Hezbollah is not a Lebanon security policy. And in Washington, D.C., if Washington, D.C. lets Tehran fold Lebanon into a U.S.-Iran deal, the message across the Middle East will be unmistakable. Iran pressures and America concedes. Well, that is the case. Okay, and of course Trump is coming up with with theories why what he did. We were going to run out of oil. I don't think so. All he has to do is end Iran's military might with the missiles, and then everything flows. So he doesn't want to do that because he's scared. He doesn't have his little powers of the air friends working the way he wants them to work with him, so he doesn't know what to do. And when they don't know what to do, these Satan bots freeze. They just don't do anything. The Christians in Lebanon are saying Israel is not their problem. Because they're saying, reading between the lines, they're saying Lebanon doesn't go around attacking Israel, Hezbollah does. So if there was no Hezbollah, or they were put out of business and they can't wage war, nobody would be attacking Israel, and Israel would not be attacking Lebanon. Now, would they want to open relations with Israel so Israelis could go up there and spend the weekend there or something like that? They don't want that. So don't think they're fond of us. They're not. Do they really want to get rid of Hezbollah, the government of Lebanon? Yes. Why? Because the Hezbollah is going to get rid of them if they don't get rid of Hezbollah. Really. So they're meeting in Washington, D.C. together, and, it's going to come to, basically a lot of blowing kisses at each other, but they're not going to deal with Hezbollah. I mean, you could make an easy situation between Lebanon and Israel. I mean, they're not out there to cut each other's throats right now. So, you know, what it's Hezbollah. Now, Lebanon would, in times past, would prefer to just let Hezbollah attack Israel and Israel do nothing, but that's stupid. So they've come to the reality of it. They've taken responsibility for them letting Hezbollah sprout up and grow roots and become this big mess of, you know, at least 50,000. It could be higher. And Iran sends volunteers over there and they pay them $1,000 a month. So Iran is sending their own people to Lebanon, which means what? It means that they're eventually going to take over the Lebanese government, and then they're going to build themselves a fort in Lebanon, so to speak, a fortress or a fort, to attack Israel. All they got to do is get rid of the Lebanese government. Then the people will be serfs like in Iran. They'll have no say. Many Iranians will move over there, IRGC and others, to make sure the population stays loyal to Iran. And they'll start building missile cities that are fortified so they could use short-range, cheap, easy-to-build missiles to attack Israel. And then they'll try to do a ground invasion into Israel. I hope you understand that. That's why Netanyahu and the country of Israel don't want to let go of fighting Hezbollah. But this dingbat Trump, who lies every single day for months now about Iran and the war and stuff like that, he just lies and lies and lies, is thinking of tying Israel's hands. But I think he's realizing that that is only going to make things worse. You know, the preppers have turned against him, and the survivalists, and the patriots. Some talk more freely than others. I was watching one, he said, oh, he was in the military, he was a veteran, and, you know, he's not, you know, he got chastised by his followers for talking badly against Trump and America, and you know, he tried to dig his way out of it by saying, well, I guess Trump, you know, is trying to do the right thing, wants to, but Trump is surrounded by his enemies and they're forcing him into doing this and that. That's not true. Trump's got fears and worries, but his big worry is he's going to be in a war, and certain people we know are going to be tossing and binding and loosing, and he ain't going to be able to have access to his little monsters that he calls gods and demons, and that's what's going to happen, and people don't want to hear that. They want to play the game Trump's a Christian. Excuse me. Yeah, I mean, you know, what scriptures does Trump follow? Don't ask me what scriptures does Trump break, because it's like everything. But let me ask you a question. A good tree bears good fruit, and if Trump is a good tree bearing good fruit, could anybody point out the good fruit to me? Because I don't see any. Anybody got any ideas? I don't think you can come up with any good fruit for this guy. I don't see it. And what happens to the tree that doesn't bear good fruit but bears bad fruit? It gets cut down and thrown in the fire. Look what he's doing to Israel. Where in the Bible does it say the stinking Jews that killed Christ, the Christ killers, are worthless pieces of garbage? Use them, chew them up, and spit them out. That's Trump. Did he ever get Hamas to surrender and give up their weapons? No. Did he say he was going to do it lots of times? Yes. Did he ever do it? No. Is that lying and deceiving the public? Yes. Is that breaking your word? Yes. There's a problem with this guy getting up there and just swinging the bull, guys. That's bad. And, you know, like I told you, it's going to get to the point where the media is going to start talking to him like Mr. Trump or President Trump. Why should we believe you now when you've been lying to us all along? Um, yeah, Lebanon, once called Paris of the Middle East, before Hezbollah, now transformed into a monstrosity of the above. Yeah, yeah. What Lebanon had was, now I'm going to say this, and it's going to be like a kind of a slur on Trump, I think, by some people, but don't be so sure. Um, Lebanon was in the 50s into sometime in the 60s, the earlier 60s. Lebanon had, and of course in the 40s and 30s and stuff like that, Lebanon had gambling resorts. They had legal gambling. And in the winter, Lebanon had ski resorts. They still do. Lots of good skiing, snow skiing. And Lebanon has what you would have to use the word beautiful, beautiful beaches. Beautiful beaches. Lots of them. Lots of them. So for the warm weather, which was probably 6 months a year, let's think, when would the weather be warm in Lebanon? It would warm up in May. Well, April, you know, it would be, some people would probably go there over Easter break or something like that. It would be reasonably decent weather, you know. Especially if you were in South Lebanon, it wouldn't be very cold. It'd be okay. You'd probably, if you were coming from cold climate, you'd probably be able to go in the water. It'd be cold, but you'd be able to go in. And that would be, they'd have it going that way probably until October. Sometime in October, we start the end of October. If you were, we're talking South Lebanon, near Israel. So they would be going, they'd be able to crank about 6 months, you know. I wouldn't push it to 7 months, maybe, but 6 months. You know, maybe half of April, half of October, something like that. You know, the other time you would when you had the winter, which would really be like December, you would have the snow and the skiing. For that, it'd be too cold to really use the beaches. People would go to other places for the beach, but it was still a nice place, you know. If you went over there and started trouble, you'd probably get knifed in the street or something like that. But if you were minding your own business, and you stayed at the resorts, you were okay. So yeah, it was a nice place. You could go to Google and look at their ski resorts. You could look at their beaches and stuff like that. But the Mohammedanism wrecked the place. So it used to. What did it used to be like? Women went to the hair salons and got their hair done. They didn't wear hijabs. Okay. They had sidewalk cafes where you could get coffee, espresso, beer, wine, and sit outside, read a paper, watch the people go by, whatever, right? Have a little bite to eat. That's gone, you know. It's is the food in Lebanon good? I have to be truthful. Very good. Lebanese food is good. Yeah, it's good. It really is. Uh, are the regular Lebanese people nice enough people? Yeah, yeah, yeah. They want to get liberated, like Iran. A lot of the people in Iran want to get liberated. The problem with Iran is probably somebody said 80% are sitting around deaf to America, deaf to Israel. Okay, 20%, arm us. Let us get rid of the mullahs. Well, Trump could easily drop 25 or 50,000 guns there, but the problem is they'll get mowed down. Martial law will set in. Tanks will be in the street. There'll be witch hunts on the people. Everybody who has one of these guns will be hung publicly. Trump doesn't want to wear that, okay? So he's not going to do it. He did encourage the people to go out in the streets and protest, saying he was there, he was going to help them, and he betrayed them. Did I say he betrayed them? Yeah, you tell me how he didn't betray them. He was promising them all sorts of stuff, and he just left them in the lurch. And he's making moron deals with Iran, and all the proposals, even coming from Trump, his own proposals are Iran could do whatever they want to their own population. Let me tell you about a guy like Trump. He's not unique. What they want you to do, what a guy like that wants you to do, is sell your soul. Okay? It's a figure of speech. He wants you to submit to him, give in to him, compromise for him, and then just to prove to himself how great he is, he dumps all over you. So does Trump have any loyalty or any friends? No. No. People come to him and he uses them and wipes his feet on them. Iran showed resistance, scared him, he backed off. And the situation he has now with Iran, I don't believe he understands it. I really don't think he truly understands it. Now, I think people have explained it to him, but I don't think he gets it. He's lost his marbles. A lot of you don't understand. The stress of the war, he had aircraft carriers damaged by them, he had planes crash. He has had tremendous difficulties on the bases that got missile and drone attacked. They got busted up very badly. and the infrastructures for Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, and Saudi Arabia got hurt, and Iran is threatening to not only get the oil refineries, but the oil wells, the ports and the piers, and the water desalinators in these countries. And they can do it. And Trump made his situation worse by stopping the attacks, because Netanyahu had been attacking the fortified missile cities and damaging the opening doors that they used to launch the missiles. Also the entrances and exits, so they weren't working. So Netanyahu was impeding their operation. What Trump did is just stop the war and gave them a get out of jail free card, and they had many weeks to rebuild and fix and refortify their missile cities and their other facilities. This is what's called stupid, okay? He was told, Netanyahu, I'm sure, told him. So now what happened? What happened, and now I'm telling you that anybody who lives in the Middle East with any intelligence and pays attention to this stuff, I don't care which country they're in, they're going to tell you the same thing. They know what's going on, right? So Iran sees weakness. Remember, these people are good, like, going around selling a Persian rug door to door or at the Casbah. Okay? They're trained to be, manipulative negotiators in commerce from the time they're children. Literally. And Trump made a big mistake. They looked at what was wrong with their missile cities, how they were weakened, and how they got attacked and how they got hurt, and they refortified, they repaired them and refortified them and made them stronger and more resilient. Plus, they repaired their damaged missile launches. And in addition to that, I'm quite certain they were continuing the building of drones and missiles in various sites that America may know about, didn't hit, or didn't know about. So they coming out of the box strong. And anytime Trump doesn't listen to everything they state as a stipulated condition, they're out of they say we're out of the ceasefire. So they played Trump for a chump and got 18 billion out of him. For what? Are we going to delude ourselves in saying that Iran is actually doing a ceasefire when they've closed the Straits of Hormuz? Are we going to delude ourselves into thinking Iran's in a ceasefire when they're saying if Israel doesn't leave South Lebanon, we're going to get violent with them? And maybe America too, probably both. So we got a president of the United States that runs around barking delusions at people. Is it possible that Trump managed to sneak a few oil tankers again out of the Persian Gulf? Well, it's probably more likely that Iran sent oil tankers out of the Persian Gulf, and Trump just let them out. And these were more than likely tankers going to Asia, where Iran has buddies. That's what happened. You know that oil tank is to go from the Persian Gulf to um, Asia could take about 40 days. They don't go that fast. Their optimum speed is about 13, 14, max 15 miles an hour. I think 13, 14 miles an hour is about their max. And it's a long trip to Asia, China, and other places. So it's about 40 days. It could be 50 days. So yeah, the oil is going to get over there and help. But you got to remember that the nations of the world go through 100 million barrels a day. That's everybody. South America, Africa, Europe, everybody put together. 19 million barrels is roughly 1/5 of one day's oil supply. Now, it might keep China going at 19. If it all went to China, it might make sense for them for a month or something like that, you know. Do we think it's feasible that China said to Trump, if you do this and they cut the oil supply off, we're going to go to war against you? No. I don't think that happened. No. Trump wants to see Israel cut it off, you know, with Lebanon and pull out. But Israel's not that stupid. He doesn't care about us. We'll pull it out and he'll say, oh, yeah, we'll help you if something goes wrong. And he won't help you. When did they ever help us with Gaza or Hezbollah? Did they ever bomb Gaza or Hezbollah ever? The United States? Never. Never. Did they ever bomb the Houthis? Yes. Yes. Because the Houthis were messing with them too by closing the Red Sea. Okay? When Iraq was firing at us missiles before they changed leaders, did America ever help us? No. What about Syria attacking us? Ditto, no. No, they don't care. So we do what they say. We leave Hezbollah alone, let them flourish, like Trump let. You see, Trump let Hezbollah, the Iranians, flourish again. Okay, stupid. In other words, this guy has no concept of what's going on. Okay. Netanyahu at onset told him, Trump, it's a waste of time to do ceasefires with Iran. Okay. Trump was saying regime change, regime change. You know, the other day, like in the last 2 days, he came out with a statement saying he never had any intentions to do, or words to that effect, a regime change in Iran. See, he's trying to make them feel better about him, but he's lying. So, look, the media, some of the media has reached a point with Trump, but a lot of the media is still treating Trump out of respect, as what comes out of his mouth is the gospel truth, and it's not. It's a satanic lie. You know, it's coming from the father of lies. This guy just lies and lies and lies, and people buy it, but Iran ain't buying into it. you know, you got a real problem. So we need to be asking ourselves, what's the end game? Do I see Trump just leaving? People are saying they're watching flight trackers and they're saying that Trump is slowly moving assets out of the Middle East. Probably true, but not that much. So is he going to just pull out? In which case, Iran would just wait till he left. And then they would conquer Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Oman, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia, and whatever time period they could do it. I don't think he's going to do it. He'll lose the Middle East. They'll be selling oil off the U.S. dollar. The economy in America will crash. They'll sell the oil off the euro. That'll crash. Iran will fire missiles into Europe. Um, Iran might go to war against Ukraine to help Russia. Um, China would probably start building bases, bring warships over there. I mean, it would just be a nightmare for Trump and America. So he's not going to be that quick to do that. He doesn't know what to do. If he knew what to do, he would take decisive action and stick to it. He'd lay a plan out and follow through, but he doesn't have the stomach for it. So all we could do is basically, I think we just got to wait for him to get scared enough, and then he'll let the generals of the Pentagon do it, and it will probably work, and prophecy will be fulfilled. And Jeremiah 49, starting in verse 34 to the end, where Elam, Iran, gets destroyed so bad they have to leave the country and scatter into all the nations of the world, where the sword follows them and they get killed. Why is the sword following them? Because most of them want to kill Israel. That's why. And that pits them against God, of course. So all that has to happen now for that is Trump to take out the water desalinators and the electrical grid and some other stuff, and voila, they're going to have to leave. And that's how close we are. Of course, Netanyahu could do it too. Why not? Trump says 19 million barrels of oil passed through the Straits of Hormuz yesterday. Oil prices are tumbling and the world is much safer. The world is not much safer. The world is much worse off for war and economic problems from Iran. He doesn't understand. This is a rich kid that grew up in private schools, grew up with all kinds of servants, had all kinds of wealth and riches. This is like the Prince of Saudi Arabia, another schmuck. Gets in control and doesn't know anything and is weak because it's been spoiled his whole life. It's weak, scared. That's it. That's what you got. So Israel and Lebanon and BC are on their 5th round of talks. But the talks are stupid because it's Hezbollah that's causing the trouble, and Hezbollah answers to Iran, not Lebanon. So this is just another example of Trump's stupidity. Do you see that? It's not totally stupid. It's nice, and it's also irritating Iran because Iran knows Lebanon is opposed to Hezbollah, and Trump is trying to manipulate Lebanon into position to join in the fight against Hezbollah. So he's getting Iran madder with this Lebanon policy of his. I hope you understand that. The president of Iran and the Iran foreign minister took a visit to Pakistan. And Pakistan fighter jets were escorting the president's plane. And the Iranian officials received a very, very warm welcome. And this Trump puts these people in as mediators. These people hate Israel. Trump makes them mediators. What is wrong with Trump? He doesn't care about Israel. He doesn't fear God. He's going to turn against Israel. Wait and see. Really bad, I'm sure. The Greek defense, well, not that bad, but bad enough. The Greek defense minister Nikos Dendias on the threat posed to Greece by Turkey. Listen to what this guy says. You'll crack up laughing. Israelis can't believe he said this. He's not against Israel. Israel's actually friendly with this guy. Israel's actually an ally of Greece, but listen to what he says. The country is facing a great threat. I am not telling you anything new. The country is facing a real threat, referencing Turkey. We are the only country in the world, the only one on the face of the earth that is dealing with a declared threat of war, a casus belli, from a neighboring country. You hear this? He said this? This guy is dumb as a bag of hammers, too. They're all stupid. They're all like children, these Satan bots. This guy's another blithering idiot, but you've got to understand they're all that way. Look how bad Putin is doing over there. Oh, he's running around like, Tarzan in the jungle. And look, little old Ukraine, they handed him his head. And he had Europe and America and everybody scared and trembling and all that. And Ukraine handed him his head. Little transactional guy in Ukraine that used to be a comedian, a Jewish guy no less, is handing Trump his head. He's bombing Moscow repeatedly, blowing up oil refineries repeatedly. Gasoline, refined oil product, is in very short supply in Russia. Iran might face the same problem as Russia in the near future with the gasoline supply too, by the way. What they'll do if gas gets bad, the nations will subsidize the price and then they'll ration. That's what they'll do. America rationed in World War II. The way that worked is you signed up and you got, if you were an American, and everybody that was in America back then was basically an American, and you got a ration book. They mailed it to you. The ration book had stamps. So when you went to buy your gas, you had to rip off from your stamps so many stamps for so many gallons of gas and give it to the guy at the gas station, because he was required to justify, if they came and audited him, here's the stamps to justify these 29,000 gallons of gasoline, you know. Um, Now you were able to apply for extra gas under certain circumstances. You know, uh, you had to use your car to go to work, and you were in a defense industry critical position. Then they let you have more gas. You know. Okay. Uh, so actually, the funny thing is, Greece was not taking a slur at Israel directly. Okay, he was just being stupid, or maybe he was inebriated, but or both. But he's definitely not the brightest light in the harbor. um, I don't want to forget. I have a couple of prayer requests here. Let's do that. First one is for KG Kilo Girl. KG Kilo Girl. KG. Um, for the assistant, her eye. Hold on, I gotta check the words on this. I don't understand what the words are here. I gotta go to the original. Hold on. Um, it's okay. I'll have to ad lib what's going on here. I think I understand what it means. It's the way I got the email was KG for the assist in her eye to be gone. Yeah, it's saying assist, but it's assist. Okay. So we want to pray for KG. There's a cyst in the eye to be healed. So healing for KG, a cyst in the eye, CYST in the eye. Okay. Um, Next one is for a baby named Colin, Caulin. Colin, I guess, or Colleen. Caulin is what I got. Uh, for this baby to be able to get strength back or get strengthened and leave the hospital. So the prayer is for a baby named Colin to get its strength back and leave the hospital, to get strong and leave the hospital. That's all I know, but that's all we really know. We all we need to know to pray. Okay, so there we go. All right, that was it for the prayer requests. So I want to read you what the official kind of release about what's going on in Lebanon with what Trump wants and Netanyahu and so forth. Following a new government directive, IDF commanders on Saturday, today is Wednesday, so we're just getting news of this now. This is from Trump's influence. Received orders limiting them to defensive operations only in Lebanon. Under the instructions, troops may open fire solely in response to an immediate threat, unless they receive explicit authorization from the IDF Chief of Staff, General Iyad Zamir. Uh, Two Israeli officials told the New York Times. So, what they're saying is no further incursions to penetrate deeper into Lebanon territory they're not in. They can only defend. So it freezes where they're at in Lebanon. They can't advance, but they're not retreating. And if Hezbollah attacks them, they can counter. So Netanyahu made a concession to Trump, unfortunately. This impedes the progress of us ending the war, which helps Netanyahu because he uses the war to stay out of jail with his criminal cases. He doesn't testify in court because he says, oh, I got a war emergency. Very convenient. President Trump says, I can finish the job in Iran in less than a week, but they'll be okay. They're going to do what they have to do. Yeah, Iran's going to do what they think they have to do, which is going to mean trying to get rid of Trump. He's so out there in left field. I think he's really nuts. The Speaker of the Iranian Parliament, named Mohammed Ghalibaf, and the head of the Iranian negotiating delegation with the U.S. in Switzerland, recounts what happened in the negotiations after the latest threat made by Trump against Iran and what the Iranians gained as a result. During the discussions, I learned that Trump had made threats against our president, against the negotiation team, and even threatened a possible attack on our territory. I said to Vice President Vance, we are sitting here and holding talks. And according to the agreements that were signed, the first clause states that there will be no threats or coercion, and yet today your president made threats. Understand that we will never negotiate under threats or pressure. We ended the negotiations, left the meeting, and did not return. They never came back. The American side requested through intermediaries to hold another meeting, but we refused. Afterwards, the Qatari and Pakistani mediators came to us and we told them we would speak with them, but not directly with the American side. The result of these discussions and the 80 minutes of negotiations before it was cut off was the announcement that was later published by the Qatari and Pakistani sides. He added in an interview with journalists that the Strait of Hormuz will never return in the state it was before the war. So you can see that, Trump is lying about things, and the Iranians lie too, but this is not them. What do they lie about? They lie about how great of a missile they have and how strong they are militarily, and things like this. run around, you know, talking about lies of things that are easily exposed. Do I think that the Iranians build paper mache missiles and parade them through the streets? You know, things that are 60 feet long and all that, and 4 or 5 feet thick. And yeah, they'll do that. It's just paper mache, but they'll do that. That's lying. But they're not going to lie in the same way Trump does because it's too easy to get caught. Let me check our live stream. How do you know so much about Lebanon? Well, I've studied it. I only drive time. I'm in Lebanon. I could be in Lebanon in about an hour. Uh, I'm in the Galilee. Somebody writes this. He did significant damage. Besides casualties, Iranian nominal GDP was near $1 trillion. Now it fell at 300 billion. Why have another person writes, why haven't they rebuilt refineries in the country instead of importing? Well, they had significant damage to different oil facilities in Iran, courtesy of American attacks and Israeli attacks. And they will probably get around to rebuilding whatever they can. But now they've got money coming in, they'll start rebuilding. They just picked up $18 billion. See, they were money tight because they weren't able to sell the oil. So Trump, in his stupidity, lifted the sanctions on them. So he's letting them have money. So they have no motive to sign a deal with him to get money. Okay? They have no motive to sign a deal with him to relieve sanctions. He's already done that. So what is Trump thinking? I mean, what is he thinks he's gonna tell them that he's going to attack? Trump thinks he's going to tell them he's going to attack them. He's going to attack them. And they're scared of that. That's very far from the truth, guys. They're crazy. You know, the thing that I wish Trump would understand is it goes like this with these nutbags, the Iranians, okay? If they get killed, this is what the people are led to believe. If they get killed, they're going to go to heaven. And in heaven, they're going to get their virgins. What are they, up to 71 now. It's 71 virgins. Okay, they've increased. So that's what their bellyache, and they're going to get 71 virgins. So what in the world are they afraid of? If we don't get killed, we're victorious. Yay. If we get killed, we're victorious. We're in heaven with the 71 virgins. Now, the leaders don't believe that, but that's just a few of them. The others do. For the prophecy in Jeremiah 49 to be fulfilled, it says Iran gets destroyed by her enemies in the plural. It's Elam, but it's Iran. So that could be like before, UAE was shooting at him, Saudi Arabia was shooting at him, Qatar a little bit, and Israel and America. It could be that these idiots finally refine a missile to hit deeper into Europe and go after Europe. Then the Europeans will have to shut them down or they'll destroy their country. Could be Trump and Israel do it. It's hard to say. Somebody's going to do it. It could be the Arab states do it. Iran doesn't have anything resembling a good amount of radar or air defense systems. So Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Oman, Jordan, Saudi Arabia get together, they could probably do it. Would they want Israel to do it? No, I don't think so. Maybe they would, I don't know. Try to suck Israel in and then give them the cold shoulder when it's over. Trump can bail out of the Middle East and just wash his hands of the whole thing. He could do that. If he does that, he's in trouble. Another point you need to know is this. The worse Trump deals with Israel, the more the oil states in the Middle East will not trust Trump. During the war, Vance and Netanyahu were running out saying to everybody what great allies Israel is. And now they put the knife in our backs. The Arabs aren't stupid. They see all this. And that's probably one of the reasons why Saudi Arabia said you can't rely on America to protect you. But can they make peace with Iran? You can't make peace with Iran. The ones that make peace with Iran are Russia, North Korea, China. They actually have a peace, status with them. But you can submit to Iran. But then you get into countries that are powerful, that are Muslim, that don't really like Iran, and that's Egypt and Turkey. And if they turn on Iran, it's curtains for Iran. They might suffer a lot of problems inside their country if they do this. In Egypt, the Muslim Brotherhood would probably rise up and try to get Egypt to stop and save Iran. And in Turkey, he could have a similar problem from other groups rising up. So they're staying out of it. Even though Egypt suffered with the Houthis closing the Red Sea, reducing the traffic, thus reducing the amount of money that Egypt was collecting for people paying tolls passing the Suez Canal. They didn't go attack Iran because the Muslim Brotherhood would have turned on the government of Egypt. So Iran has to be pretty careful about that. The other countries that could likely turn on Iran also is Syria and Afghanistan. They might go after them too. The new leader of Iraq doesn't really give a lot of loyalty to Iran, but he's not going at Iran like an enemy either. He's not willing to start throwing missiles at Israel to support Iran because he knows Netanyahu's going to come over there and drop hundreds of bombs. Trump's going to run out of time pretty quick. He has no continued negotiations with Iran. Iran said they're closing the Persian Gulf. Iran has every intention of charging tolls and running the Persian Gulf. And Iran has every intention of attacking America and or Israel over the occupation in South Lebanon, which isn't stopping. And if Trump forces Israel to stop, Israel may ignore him. But whether or not Israel listens or doesn't listen, the other Arab countries are going to realize that if Trump turned on Israel, he'll turn on them. And they'll start making plans without Trump being aware of it. They won't turn against America. They just won't rely on America for much anymore. And Iran will sing the song, "Come on, join BRICS. We'll get rid of America. We just won't trade oil on the dollar. We'll collapse their currency," and stuff like that. All right. So the situation is rather bad, and it's not getting better. And Trump lying is only giving very temporary relief to the oil prices. Uh, he's running out of tricks, and he ain't gonna be able to keep it going very much longer. It's not gonna work. He's overstayed his welcome with this, and it's gonna blow up in his face, and he's gonna have to come to a decision. He's basically making deals with himself, not with Iran. He thinks that by being nice to him, here's $18 billion, here your sanctions are lifted. He doesn't understand that the Iranians are interpreting this entirely as him in fear and surrendering to them. And they're going to keep going back and seeing how much more they can get out of Trump. That's the reality, kids. That's your reality. Okay, let's get into the Bible translation. So, and where am I? Okay, let me get back here. Ezekiel 45 is a very interesting chapter. I need to get back to the beginning here. I've got it in 2 columns. So we're going to do it from the Leningrad Codex, which is about 900 AD, the Hebrew text. And we're going to do it from the Codex Vaticanus. Codex means book. Vaticanus, which is about 300 AD, made from the remaining Greek scraps and fragments and papyri and of the ancient Septuagint, going back to 250 years before Yeshua. So it was made by 70 Jewish scribes that did not know anything about Yeshua and had no axe to grind. Okay, we'll go into verse 1 with the Hebrew, the Leningrad. When you allot the land as an inheritance, you shall set apart for the Lord a portion from the land as a holy district, 25,000 cubits long and 20,000 cubits broad. It shall be holy throughout its whole content. Now, this is where the temple's going to be, the next temple, not New Jerusalem. Okay, New Jerusalem is way too big for that. And there's a difference in the Greek, and I'll read it to you, you'll see it. And when you divide the land by lot for an inheritance, you shall set apart first fruits. That's not in the Hebrew. The Hebrew just says shall set apart. So the first fruits is in here, okay, from the Septuagint. To the Lord, a holy portion of the land in length 25,000 reeds, instead of cubits is saying reeds, and in breadth 20,000. It shall be holy in all the borders thereof round about. It shall be holy throughout its whole extent, is the Hebrew. They're both pretty close on that. Why they added the first fruits in, I'm not sure. But it appears it was added in. of this, so you'll find in the Greek Septuagint, liberties were taken. For this, a square plot of 500 by 500 cubits shall be for the sanctuary, with 50 cubits for an open space around it. And there shall be a separation for the sanctuary from this 500 reeds by 500, a square roundabout, and there shall be a vacant space beyond this of 50 cubits roundabout. Okay. And from this area you shall measure off a portion. So let's think about this. He's telling them how to do the land for the temple. So how can this be before Zechariah 10 is completed and Yeshua appears in the clouds? Because of dividing the land. See, it starts right off in verse 1. When thou allot the land as an inheritance. Oh, when you allot it as a land. Okay. No. It doesn't really mean that. Your temple could still be there before. It could be. Yeah. It's not definitive. It's not black and white definitive that it wouldn't be. Okay. All right. I think we're in verse 4. It shall be a holy portion of the land. It shall be for the priests who minister in the sanctuary and approach the Lord to minister to him. And it shall be a place for their houses and a holy place for the sanctuary. So Elijah in Malachi 3 is training the Levites, which would be the Kohanim, probably of Zadok if they're going close. But the Kohanim are Levites. So yeah, it still could be pre-appearing of Yeshua in the clouds, because I think it is. The sequence would be in Malachi 4. He appears. This is Malachi 3. So yeah, I think so. It shall be a portion of the land for the priests who minister. This is the other translation in Greek. Minister in the holy place. It shall be for those who draw near to minister to the Lord, and it shall be a place for their houses and a set apart place for their holiness. Five. Yeah, there's a difference. The Hebrew uses cubits, and the Greek is using reeds. And the problem is a reed is 6 cubits long, making the Greek description of the sacred area vastly larger than the Hebrew description. So I would go with the Hebrew. Remember, the Hebrew preceded the Septuagint because the Septuagint was nothing more than a copy into Greek, a translation into Greek, so it pre-existed. I think this is, did I do verse 5? Well, we'll do verse 5 now. Um, another area 25,000 cubits long and 10,000 broad shall be for the Levites who minister at the temple as their possession for cities to live in. So that's their possession. They're not going to get agricultural land because that's not their work. Their work is working for the Lord, okay, and the people support them. Food from the offerings, the temple tax, or if there is a temple tax. I don't know if there'll ever be another temple tax. I don't know. There shall be a portion 25,000 in length and 25,000 in breadth for the Levites who minister in the house. They shall, that would be the Kohanim that are Zadokites. I'm rather certain about that. They shall have cities to dwell in for possession. Minister at the temple as their possession for cities to live in. It's see, it's specifying here Levites ministering in the temple. And it says cities to live in. So I don't think it means they're going to have cities in Haifa and Eilat and stuff like that. Because it's pertaining to those ministering at the temple. And those who minister at the temple are not going to be living far away like that, where it takes days to get up there on foot. So I think we gotta watch it. The cities probably means maybe like neighborhoods near the temple. I don't know what it means, but it does in both translations say cities. Now, do I think that they'll have synagogues again in different locations around Israel? Yeah. Do I think they'll have cities? I don't think so. No. I think I can't explain the plural very well, but I don't. From what I know is they're going to be, these people are going to be living by the temple. Okay, verse 6. Along with the portion set apart as the holy district, you shall give to the city as its possession an area of 5,000 cubits broad and 25,000 long shall belong to the whole house of Israel. And the Greek, it's saying in the same manner as the separation of the holy portion, it shall be for all the house of Israel. Okay. And to the prince that shall belong the land. What? And to the prince shall belong the land on both sides of the holy district, and the property of the city alongside the holy district, and the property of the city on the west and on the east, corresponding in length to one of the tribal portions from the western. And in the Greek version here, and the prince shall have a portion on this side and on that side of the first fruits of the sanctuary. He's back to the first fruits again. And of the possession of the city in front. Front of the possession of the city, westward and eastward, and the length shall be equal to one of the portions from the western borders to the eastern borders of the land. Okay. So you see, the other verses is just talking about a city. Now, it's talking about the prince. Now, I want to go read you a scripture for ease. I'm going to do it out of the King James, so you understand what prince they're talking about, because a lot of people don't really grasp this. And I'm going to be very polite. We're in Daniel 9, and I'm trying to figure out if we're in verse 25 or 6. Let's see. Well, let's read 25. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem unto the anointed prince. Now, the King James is deceiving you, okay? As is Tyndale, as in the 1611 King James, as in Wycliffe, as in they're all of them. Okay, the English. It says to build Jerusalem unto the Messiah. Now that word is not correctly translated Messiah. It's Mashiach, and it's used 104 times in the Old Testament. Very, very many of the times, a huge amount of the times, it means anointed. Okay, so they translated Messiah to throw you into Darby Schofield, but which is error. This is Mashiach, anointed prince, Nagid. It's not Yeshua. He's the king of Israel, not a prince. So it's the anointed prince shall be 7 weeks. I don't pay attention to their time frames. They're all messed up. And 62 weeks. See, they call that something. What are they? 7 weeks and 62. So that's 62, and 7 is 69. But in Hebrew, you would never say 69 this way. I'm not set up to do this Bible study on the timing here, but it's all messed up. This is the Schofield Derby game that's being played here. The street shall be built again, and the wall, even in troublous times. And after 62 weeks shall the anointed, not Messiah, anointed, be cut off, but not for himself, and the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary and the end. See, it really is defile. The word destroy 7843. It means to corrupt more than anything, or defile. The temple, if you read it, Daniel 8, I think it's 23 or something like that, they reconsecrate the temple when this is over. This is Gog and Magog they're talking about, okay? And the end thereof will be with a flood, and unto the end of the war, desolations shall be decreed, and he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblations to cease, and for the overspreading. Okay, look, if you want to understand Daniel 9, you got to read Ezekiel 8 to 11, because it's the same thing. And you got to read the whole book of Joel. And you got to read Zechariah 14. You can't just pull it piece by piece. And their timing is all messed up. They say in verse 24, 70 weeks. It's not weeks, it's 70, 72 70s. They're all washed up. Let me get back into what I was trying to do, though. All right. I think I was coming in around verse 8 or something. So you're going to be reading about the anointed prince here, and you're going to see it's clearly not Yeshua, and I'll point it out. I should move a little bit quicker, so when I don't see any controversy, I'll just do the Hebrew, but we'll keep using the Greek as a check and balance in times. Okay. It shall be the property in Israel, and my princes shall no more oppress my people. This is very similar in the Greek. No more, in the Greek it says, and it shall be his land for possession in Israel, and the princes of Israel shall no more oppress my people. Okay. But they shall let the house of Israel have the land according to their tribes. And that would be what you read in Ezekiel 47, most of 47 is division of the land. Okay. Now we're in verse 9. Thus says the Lord God, it would be, I guess, I don't know, Jehovah. Enough, O princes of Israel, put away violence and oppression, and execute justice and righteousness. Cease your evictions of my people. In other words, throwing the people out of the house because they're poor and can't support the rent. Okay, that's evil. People that do that are going to fall into the 2/3 that get cut off in Israel. Zechariah 13, verse 8 and 9. Okay. you shall have just balances, a just ephah and a just bath. So in other words, you can't play games with the balance beam, you know, and change the weights for somebody you don't like versus someone you like and stuff like that. The ephah and the bat shall be of the same measure, the bat containing a tenth of a homer, and the ephah a tenth of a homer. The homer shall be the standard measure. Verse 10. Now, you got to pay attention to this, you patriots, survivalists, and people like that, because if they knew it was there, they would think it's really cool. The shekel shall be 20 gerahs, 20 shekels plus 25 shekels plus 15 shekels shall be your mina. And in the Greek it says, and the shekel shall be 20 gerahs, your mina shall be 20 shekels, 25 shekels, and 15 shekels. So there's different denominations. Okay. So there's a firm currency. And it's gold and silver, you know. This is the offering that you shall make, a sixth of an ephah from each homer of wheat, and a sixth of an ephah from each homer of barley. It's about like that in Greek. And as the fixed portion of oil measured in baths, 1/10 of a bath from each core, C-O-R. The core, like the homer, contains 10 baht. So that's your olive oil. And 1 sheep from every flock of 200 from the watering places of Israel for grain offering, by burnt offering and peace offering, to make atonement for them, declares the Lord God. So there's offerings again, because we're no longer under the same level of grace, because now we have a temple and we have the anointed prince instead of a high priest. The anointed prince is from the line of David, because David shall never lack a man to sit on the throne. And now we're doing this offerings because Yeshua is not with us yet. It says if he were on earth, he would be no high priest. So he's in the order of Melchizedek, sitting in heaven with God the Father right now when this is going on. Okay? That's hard for many people to understand, I know, but that's the reality of it. All the people of the land shall be obliged to give. It's not a spiritual depiction here. That's absurd. That's Schofield talk. You know, all the people of the land shall be obliged to give this offering to the prince in Israel. And in the Greek, ancient Greek, all the people of the land shall give this contribution to the prince of Israel. It shall be the prince's duty to furnish the burnt offerings, grain offerings, and drink offerings at the feasts, the new moons, that's a feast day, kids, and the Sabbath. So there's observant to the Sabbath again, to some extent, right? All the appointed feasts of the house of Israel, he shall provide the sin offerings, grain offerings, burnt offerings, and peace offerings to make atonement for the house of Israel. I know those of you that have been sitting in the buildings on Sunday from 9 to 11 in the morning are perplexed by this, but it's in your Bible, it's reality. Okay. The explanation is not overly complicated. It's rather simple. I gave it to you. Now we're in verse 18. The Hebrew Leningrad Codex, or Codex Lenin. Well, I think it's Codex Leningradus or something. Leningrad, I say Leningrad. Thus says the Lord God, in the first month, on the first day of the month, you shall take a bull without blemish and purify the sanctuary. It says in the Greek very much similar. Thus says the Lord God, in the first month, on the first day of the month, you shall take a calf. Well, we're talking about a bull. Now here we're talking about a calf. I'll go with bull from the Hebrew. Without blemish from the herd, to make atonement for the sanctuary. The Hebrew is saying purify the sanctuary. The priest, this is verse 19 in the Hebrew, the priest shall take some of the blood of the sin offering and put it on the doorposts of the temple, the four corners of the ledge of the altar, and the doorposts of the gate of the inner court. Upon the doorposts of the gate of the, it's very much the same in the Greek. Verse 20, you shall do the same on the seventh day of the month for anyone who has sinned through error or ignorance. So error or ignorance is meaning it's a sin because the people didn't realize they did it. In other words, it's not like they knew if they drank a whole bottle of wine they would get drunk and that's a sin and they did it anyway. This is people did something in error or ignorance. Now, in the Greek it says, it gives it a better way. It says, everyone who errs or errs through ignorance. So you see, the Hebrew's a little bit choppy. It says through error or ignorance, but the Greek combined it, which I think is better. It's errors through ignorance. Okay. And you shall make atonement for the temple, for the house in the Greek. It's more like a trespass offering where you didn't know you'd made a mistake. In the first month of the 14th day of the month, you shall celebrate the feast of the Passover, and for 7 days unleavened bread shall be eaten. You shall have the feast of the Passover 7 days. You shall, very much the same in the Greek. Passover is a day, and then the 7 days following is 7 plus 1, by the way. Okay. It says the feast of the Passover and for 7 days. So it's like an extra day there, right? Okay. On that day, the prince shall provide for himself and all the people of the land a bull for a sin offering. And for the 7 days of the feast, he shall provide as a burnt offering to the Lord 7 bulls and 7 rams without blemish on each of the 7 days, and a male goat daily for a sin offering. And he shall provide as a grain offering an ephah for each bull, an ephah for each ram, and a hin of oil to each ephah. And the 7th month, on the 15th day of the month, and for the 7 days of the feast, he shall make the same provision for sin offerings, burnt offerings, grain offerings, and all, so it reproduces. There's a little difference. Let's see. It says in the 7th month on the 15th day, and in the Greek it says the 7th month on the 15th day of the month. At the feast you shall do according to these things. You shall do the same provision. Okay, so the reason I really wanted to cover this is to just reestablish to you in a way that you would understand and be able to teach others that there is another temple, and it will be offering sacrifices and so forth. And it's right there in your Bible, and this is, of course, unfulfilled prophecy. We never had this temple. You could read about this temple in the description in Ezekiel 40, all the way through the end of the chapter, and the way it is set up with an inner courtyard, an outer courtyard, and a connecting gate in the north. That never happened before. We never had such a temple. So it's unfulfilled, and they're going to tell you something different, of course, but see, if they were going to teach you that the law is sort of going to be coming back, not Moses' law, a different law, and there's going to be Levites and Kohanim, where do the church figures fit in? They're not Levites or Kohanim or Zadokites. So they have to step down or step aside, and they don't want to do that. They want everything to be about the church. Israel just gets all the bad, and the church gets all the good. And let's check the live stream. "888 represents absolutely perfect." Okay. I don't know where you got that from. Maybe I'm missing something. Well, they say it's the third temple. Is it really? Let's break it down. Okay, you know, temple's not a tabernacle, so you had, Solomon's temple, then you had the one in Zechariah 4, and which is the one they got after Babylon, and then you have Herod's temple, and that's three already. But they say that Herod's temple was basically a build and an expansion over the second temple. So the next temple's the third. I don't buy it. I'd call the next temple the fourth. Herod's temple was quite a bit different than the previous temples. Technically, you could say the third, but it doesn't really. I just explained to you the controversy there. That's all. How do I feel about Muslims trying to overthrow Christianity? Well, they try to overthrow everything. I mean, in India, they tried to overthrow Hinduism, they tried to overthrow Judaism, and, everybody that's an infidel, they're going to overthrow. That's their policy, infidel. Not necessarily overthrow, but dominate. It's sad what they do with the people, how they teach them that they're gonna, if they get killed as martyrs, they're going right to heaven, and getting the virgin. What about the women? What do they get? They get to be a virgin for some guy. I don't know. I mean, it's just a weird situation there. I don't know how to deal with it, but they're weirdo. Anyway, they get very violent. So, if anybody wants to suggest verses, try to keep them to prophecy that I should translate from the ancient manuscripts for you. I use AI to do it mostly. And what do you do if you're not using AI? You're looking it up in Strong's or one of the other books, but I use different sources with AI. I use secular sources as a guide to translate from the ancient languages, so I don't get the church twist on it. Okay, that's what I'll do. All right. So, by the way, pray. I found I got an invite from some place to come put videos in their place. They're all church people, churchianity, and since I don't have to do anything except put videos up there, I think I'm going to put videos up there. I'm going to be more sedate than I am here, but I'm going to get the point across. I'm going to try to find the strength to do it. I'm going to try to focus on the translations. That gives me a chance to teach prophecy in a roundabout way, if you get my drift. Maybe veiled. So that's what I'm going to do. Pretty excited about it. I don't know how many views we're going to get, no idea. In Facebook, we're getting over 200 views a day. And Twitter gets anywhere from, I guess, 20 to 120. But that usually gets counted in on the count from YouTube. Telegram, it's gonna go into account on YouTube too. So I don't do Instagram. I don't know what good it would do me to go on for a few seconds with a picture. It makes no sense to me. Rumble is not productive. No, it doesn't. Rumble doesn't generate anything. TikTok is probably worse than Rumble. They're for different kinds of things, you know. That brings us to there's not that many places. I think that Facebook might eventually build to 500, but it'll take months. But it might get there. It'll keep growing, I think. Views a day, you know. That's what I got, and so pray that I get some great success. The idea is, the demon tossing is great, and it's a tool, but it's a tool to spread the gospel. The binding and loosing is really a tool to spread the gospel. The way we get our great success is spreading the gospel, not just tossing and binding and loosing, although that's great, and it's certainly a lot of fun. Let's not kid ourselves, but it is not as important as spreading the gospel, which is the big thing that we should really be focusing on, because that's what really counts. And so maybe this new endeavor will lead to something, or maybe they'll just get rid of me over there. I don't know. Give me a second here. What are these nasty people that goes around Israel trying to get people to borrow money? They're not going to give you anything unless you're going to give them collateral, probably, or they'll go sue you into the ground. It's just horrible what goes on in Israel. And that's why 2/3 are going to get cut off. Okay, let's get a prayer going. My Heavenly Father, Jehovah, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I pray for me and my wife and all the true believers in their household, that we would have your peace, safety, protection, calm, rest, joy, and we would have more of the gifts of the Spirit of faith, wisdom, and discernment. And I pray that we have strength and stamina and endurance, and your healing and recuperative power flows through us and would keep healing us as needed. And I pray for us and our animals and pets to be safe, secure, happy, healthy, and whole. And I pray for the peace of Yerushalayim. I pray for all of us that need a place to live. Maybe we have no place, or we need a better or different place for our peace, and we pray for that to happen. And I pray for all those that seem to be falling away, that they stop falling away and return back to the fold. And I pray that those of us that need a job would find a job, a good job. And those of us that need clients and customers would get clients and customers. And we would all have adequate funds plus extra. And I pray that we all know the Bible better, and I pray you help me do better videos, better translations. And I submit all this to you, my Heavenly Father, B'Shem Yeshua Mashiach. And now it'll be a little different, spiritual warfare. My Heavenly Father, Jehovah, I loose from me and my wife and all the true believers and our families and households any unclean spirit in any of the people in these groups that I mentioned. They unclean spirits have to depart from them immediately, never to return unto them again. And if there's any witchcraft or sorcery targeting any of us or these people, it is null and void for all time. No value, no effect forever. And if there's any darts from our enemies thrown towards us, as it says in Ephesians, these darts miss us and don't cause any damage. And I submit all this to you, my Heavenly Father, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. Okay? And I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach, and I'm out. And thank you for the offerings.